Fam. We after the election, we had to get back to foreign policy. We had to get back to certain things because the election's not over. It's not certified. Biden hasn't been crowned yet, and that fight will go on.
Well, the mainstream media and all of their friends have. But
yes, they've crowned them. But very important news, right shortly after, a couple days after, I believe it was 2 days after the election, Trump fired his one of the defense secretary, and replaced him. So he has a new senior advisor, and he wants to bring the troops home. Mark Esper was fired. He was replaced by Miller. But the big thing was the senior advisor became Colonel Douglas McGregor. And I've heard Colonel Douglas McGregor talk a couple times. The guy speaks the right language. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a little hawkish things about him, and you'll see through. But way better than the Democratic neocons and the neocons on the right and all on both parties. This guy's got a different mentality. So this is the tweet by Donald Trump. I'm pleased to announce that Christopher Miller, the highly respected director of National Counterterrorism Center, will be acting Secretary of Defense effective immediately. Chris will do a great job. Mark Esper has been terminated. He put that in the tweet. I would like to thank him for his service. But he let everybody know, you're fired. You're out of here. And the reason why is, who knows, we don't know what his motives are, Donald Trump. Is it that he might be out of the White House in 60 days and he's going to make sure that he follows through with his promise to get rid of the troops in Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq? Because this colonel is all about that. Now, let's take a look at him on Tucker. Did you want to say anything before we go in?
No, I mean, I just think this is a move toward kind of just throwing out the House. And this is why people keep, pushing him on Assange. And you very well should, because right now, if it looks like he's leaving, he's going to do whatever it is to piss them off. And if he manages to get people in that are less hawkish, the Democrats are going to show their true colors when they come in and try to put somebody else that's far worse in power. And maybe, just maybe, then people will begin starting to see that this isn't about the left and the right. This is about the people who want to keep their hands on the controls on the levers of power versus everybody else, the 99%. And that's what we always have to go back to.
Yeah, and who butters their bread?
Of
the
course,
levers of power. It's the military-industrial complex. And you better believe, if Donald Trump is able to get these troops and bring them home, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, because we still have troops in Iraq. You know damn well if Joe Biden gets in there, it's going to be, there's going to be another Fugazi attack. We have to do this. And the language that they use to keep the troops safe. Just listen to the Democrats' language, the establishment. It's disgusting. Go ahead, Johnny. You can roll it.
Just before Christmas, the president made the decision to end America's troop presence in Syria. His rationale was simple. We are there to defeat ISIS. ISIS has been crushed. Time to declare victory and go home. Makes sense? No, not in Washington. People here lost control. America is not allowed to withdraw from any place ever. Wherever American troops go, they must remain until the end, whatever that is.
Well, there's so many foolish things this man has done, but this ranks pretty high.
A decision that is dangerous, and a decision that is a Christmas present to Vladimir Putin.
Giving a huge Christmas present to Putin and to Iran.
I couldn't disagree more with this decision. It's a terrible decision.
I think this will be considered one of the worst foreign policy blunders of this century.
These people are too dumb to govern. But they're governing nonetheless. They will get their way, potentially, despite the fact none of them is president. Only the president decides what our troops do. But they may win. Recently, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina boasted that the president had been convinced to pause the withdrawal of American troops from Syria. No doubt the next objective is making that pause permanent. What next? Douglas McGregor watches carefully. He's a retired U.S. Army colonel, author of the terrific book Margin of Victory. He joins us tonight. Colonel, thank you very much for coming on.
Sure.
So if you believe in civilian control of the military, it should be as simple as the president saying this is what we're going to do. But it doesn't seem to be that simple.
No, I think there's a problem, and you've got to remember that most of your senior officers are products of the Clinton, Bush, Obama era. So they have a lot invested in this. And remember that the people who live in the 7 zip codes in and around Washington, D.C. have all become millionaires as a result of their investment in these failed operations.
That's not a talking point. That's literally true.
Yes, of course. So you put the two together, and you have a lot of resistance to ending something that's been profitable for them. It hasn't been profitable for the American people. It's been a disaster. Trillions of dollars in debt over the last 17 years, thousands of people killed and wounded. And for what? And the answer is not much.
It just seems like if you're looking for a crisis, a constitutional crisis.
Yeah. I mean, well, once again, this is the first example of this gentleman's language right here, the colonel, right? Like, and it's going to get even better, whatnot. And he also explains what's going on, and he keeps a geopolitical kind of right-wing conservative kind of like little hunch. I don't want to say like the language, but he's like, well, if the goal is to have these people, not let Putin get powerful, if we pull out, it's actually going to be more of a burden on him to make sure that the region is under control, because there's other players now that really are the problem, not the players that we're occupying their land, who are so decimated and gone. So what is your first thought about this gentleman's language? Because now he's the senior advisor to the Secretary of Defense, and a lot of people think that this is a move that Donald Trump is going to be poised to pull the troops home out of those 3 countries we talked about. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't think he's the most anti-interventionist guy, but I think he's definitely less of a neocon than anybody that we've had in recent years. Yeah. So, but what I really want you guys to notice is the language and verbiage coming from the likes of Nancy Pelosi, coming from the likes of the left, liberal left on CNN, MSNBC. These people who are manufacturing consent for more war as Americans are in the middle of a pandemic, don't have health care, literally are on the verge of, we're on the verge of an economic crisis here. And this is by far the worst possible blunder. Putin. Like, you have to understand, get out of this whole idea that there's this left-right paradigm. This is us, the people, versus the oligarchy, and the oligarchy on both the left and the right want war. There are people on both sides who don't want war. And that's something you have to understand, because this is the most hawkish language. This is CNN and MSNBC criticizing Trump for wanting to pull troops out. You guys, we've been there. There's no reason for us to be there. And the fact that these people are over here making it about Putin is really disgusting. It's really dangerous. And if you are not appalled by what they're doing, and the fact that Tucker Carlson, out of all people, has to really call them out, seriously? Like, come on. This is really, really bad. The Democrats, like he mentioned before, that the general mentioned, the colonel, the Bush and the Obamas and the Clintons, they're all the same. They're all one elite entity. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat, but it doesn't matter at this point. It's labels. That's all it is.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm going to quote Bernie Sanders, it's one big aisle over here. You know what I'm saying? Back in the old school. Yeah, shame you joined it, Bernie. But the one big aisle, Lindsey Graham hugging Dianne Feinstein after they got their Supreme Court nominee through. The other day, he gave a dap.
Yep.
To Kamala Harris.
Yeah, we're going to show that.
All right, I didn't even know. I'm sorry. But I mean, it's just one big island. And then he was bragging that he got the president to pause on pulling the troops out. The language that you're putting the troops in harm's way by bringing them home is the most insane thing ever. And if you're agreeing with it, your TDS needs to be checked.
No, it's more than your TDS. You're a fucking warmonger. You're approving warmongering ways. Your TDS has gone so far that you're willing to send people to death. To die, soldiers who you say you want to protect, to support the troops, you're willing to send them to die in useless wars for rich people who don't give a shit about anybody else. And that's the reality. If you are supporting these neocons on the Democratic side, you are just as guilty as anything, because people abroad are gonna die even more with these sanctions that Biden's gonna keep pushing. He's gonna increase our presence in the Middle East. He's gonna increase our presence in the global South. All of these people are in danger, and this is shit that we need to be talking about. And Americans are just like, oh, we got rid of fascism. Whoop-de-doo. No, you didn't get rid of any fascism. You have brought it in and put a little bow on it and called it Joe Biden. But that's literally what's happening.
The bow by Joe Biden. Donnie, I'm calling him. Donnie, shut the F up, Donnie. Johnny, let's run the next one from 207 to 408, because we've already talked a little bit about the whole thing. So run it for about 2 minutes.
Just seems like if you're looking for a crisis, a constitutional crisis, or something that would undermine democracy as we practice it for 240 years, it's the idea of the unelected subverting the power of the elected.
The problem is, though, the unelected are being supported by many of the elected to obstruct this decision to leave. There's another reason for this, in addition to the problem with money. Historically, when we leave, as we did when we left Vietnam, we're out permanently.
Yeah.
People know once we leave Syria, once we get completely out of Iraq, Once we get completely out of Afghanistan, it's over. And President Trump is going to do that. That's very clear. This pause is just that. It is a pause. We had to get out of northern Syria quickly. And the reason for that is simply there were tens of thousands of Turkish troops poised to attack the Kurds, the terrorists who have been attacking Turkey and northern Syria. We got the Syrian government to go in there. We got out. Now we have created an enormous problem for Mr. Putin, because Mr. Putin has cultivated the Turks. Mr. Putin has also cultivated his Iranian and Syrian allies. He's got to make a choice. Does he allow the Turks into Syria? Then he loses his position with the Syrians and the Iranians. So the notion that Mr. Putin has somehow or another won something is absurd. This has been a very clever move on the part of the president.
So if you see like 6 or 7 senators and talking heads in a row repeating the same talking point like robots, this is a Christmas present for Putin.
Right.
That's like prima facie evidence that they're dumb, right?
Well, you could say stupid, but obviously they're briefed by only one side, and that side has no interest in the truth. The truth is that by getting out of the way, we have eliminated the consensus that was holding these various diverse partners together. There is no reason why the Turks, the Russians, the Iranians should cooperate at all. And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. Colonel, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Great to see you.
So, fam, you saw the language, the gift to Putin, the consensus and whatnot, and it's stuff. It's just the story that it's echoed throughout the chambers seems to be one-sided, coming from the CIA and the military-industrial complex. And now you have Democrats who are so loyal to this whole machinery, this mechanism, which is the military-industrial complex, echoing those words.
And you know, I was listening to Steve Boykinen's show, and they had on Vanessa Beeley, who is in Syria, and I'd like to definitely bring her on because she is in Syria, and she was talking about how people over there are actually scared of Joe Biden coming in because they have actually managed to get some things going in Syria and work through this whole process, even with some of Trump's actions. They believe that things will be heightened with a Joe Biden presidency. And this is people in Syria saying that. So it's really interesting. It's not surprising at all that the Democratic Party is absolutely manufacturing consent, because they've become, I mean, you can see it in their advertisements on CNN. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, etc. All these people make so much money off of the defense industry that, of course, it doesn't matter. I mean, this isn't about, you know, right and wrong. This is about the money and the situation and how these people are going to make money. And the fact this guy is a threat to the military industrial complex, and they are going to smear him. They're going to make Trump look like he's stealing babies in order to manufacture consent. Yeah.
And let's just remember, this was like a year and change ago.
Yep.
So that was like before, like when he was just kind of pressuring Trump. You know, I heard like in him and the Rand Pauls, like, let's get out of Afghanistan, let's get out of Syria,
right.
Let's, you know what I'm saying? Now he's in a position, fam, to really, really to make a change here and really pull these troops home. It's just sickening, the fact that they're still using the McCarthy Putin thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to
Agreed.
stop. And the fact that they're actually, you know, they're pushing for war, the Democrats. And Joe Biden has always been that one of the guys. He's going to let the generals do what they want to do. Let the generals make the calls. Okay.
So that last clip was from January, right? The 2019.
Yeah, 2019. And
then
that's almost 2 years ago, right? This one's from a year ago now. This is about Iraq. And I love the way the language he uses. We lost. Get it through your head. We didn't win shit. Because the whole thing is, when you say we lost, that would mean you'll be hesitant to go push for another war again. If you stop putting on that, hey, we won every single war we were kind of in. We didn't win nothing. Nothing.
We didn't win Richards.
We didn't win Richards. Here he is talking about Iraq now on Tucker again.
U.S. Army Colonel, author of the fantastic book Margin of Victory, frequent guest on the show. He joins us tonight. Doug, thanks so much for coming on.
Sure.
So what would be the reason to stay in Iraq at this point?
I can't think of any, to be perfectly blunt with you. None that are any good. There are people who sympathize with those Arabs in Iraq who would like us to stay as some sort of counterweight to Iran. But frankly, we have no vital strategic interest that compels us to be there. The president is very lucky. These missiles, as you pointed out, were targeted in advance, and we were informed in advance of where they were going to land, so we were able to evacuate soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines and have no casualties. The president made a right decision not to respond. Now he needs to live up to the promises that he made to the American people and pull us out of both Syria and Iraq. That war is over. We lost it. Iran is a winner for the moment, but it won't be a winner for very long because Iran has to compete with the Turks and the Sunni Islamists for control of Iraq. So our interests do not involve Iraq and Syria. Our interests begin along a line that runs across the top of Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, around Kuwait, and down to the middle of the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, I mean, and he's still obviously like a colonel. Like he still obviously has that, like, oh, we still have our interests, and he's definitely not an anti-interventionist. But at the very least, this guy is for getting out of these places we've already lost in, and even something as minimal as that is no. That is the worst foreign policy blunder of our time if Trump does this. Yeah. Like, it is disgusting how far to the right the Democratic Party is. And there's a woman that watches our show. She was saying, like, in Germany, the Democrats would be the furthest right-wing party in Germany. And they're trying to get rid of them right now. So that is how far right you guys, I mean, it's just about like a lack of ethics. It's about this imperialism that we have, and we just got to end it. We can't even do this. This is the first step.
Yeah, and he was talking about going along and staying with our allies and staying in that area and helping them out. Obviously, not going into proxy wars against Russia or whatnot, because that message is just really fabricated and it's a lie. Yeah. The fact that if we don't do this, Russia will gain power and influence there, that's not true. There's enough going on. And I like in this next clip is he's saying that actually, if that's what you're saying, the best plan is still to get out, because they'll have their hands filled dealing with stuff rather than kind of sitting back and watching us cause chaos and distress. Because remember, the Soviet Union fell because one of the big reasons is they had to spend a lot of money on their imperialism stretching out so far. And if you do that, it really economically weakens a country. We're economically weakened. If we have to stay with the monetary system we have, and you don't understand MMT, we have to do what we have to do with our currency. We spend so much money of it overseas with all these wars, when we can just take that money and bring it right back home. If we're going to stay with that same monetary system, the new money we can create it for our stuff at home, not for stuff abroad, not for missiles to bomb other brown people in other lands. It's wrong, and it's racist. And the Democrats are worse than Donald Trump, the establishment. And that's the thing with the squad. They had the fraud squad. They haven't spoke out about this stuff as much as they should. They talk about Yemen, but there's a lot of other countries we're in that their Democratic leaders are pushing to stay in.
100%. Yeah.
That's where our interests have been.
The Levant to the Gulf, of course. So you're saying that if we want to impede the growth of Iran's influence in the region, hand them Iraq and wish them luck, in the same way that the Soviets invading Afghanistan precipitated the end of the Soviet Empire. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Erdogan in Turkey has made it very clear that he covets northern Iraq. He would like to control all of Syria. He is now sending Sunni Islamist fighters and Turkish troops into Libya and Tunisia. He is the new problem for us, not Iran. Iran really is on the ropes. Its population is sick to death of the wars that have been fought in Iraq and Syria by proxy forces and by Iranians in the Quds Force. They've taken thousands of casualties. Mr. Soleimani was popular with many, but very unpopular with others, especially the people that lost sons fighting in those countries. Yes. Let's get out, leave it alone, let the people there sort it out, and they will. Iran's not going to be popular for very long in Iraq.
There you go. What's that? That was after the whole thing went on in Iraq. With
was
the
that
whole
after or before Soleimani got killed?
I think it was.
If this was a
I think it was right after.
It was January 8th, so let me see.
When did Soleimani get killed? I can't remember.
That was after.
I think it was definitely after.
Yeah.
When was he killed?
January 3rd.
So it was right after.
Yeah.
It was right after. And, but he also pointed out, too, as well, like everybody thinks that, the whole thing, the talk is if we pull out of the region, Russia's going to back Iran. Iran's going to be the power broker over there. They're the strong ones. No, their hands are tied. their country is just fed up with war and infighting in their own country. They don't want to do anything. And he also kind of points out, fam, what we've been talking about a long time. Who's the guy I dislike most in that region? Erdogan.
Yeah.
Turkey. What he's doing, sending Sunni Islamic troops all over the fucking region. Excuse my French, Mom. I didn't mean to curse, but it's serious. He's sending, he did it right now with Nagorno-Karabakh. Okay, he's the big problem right now. That's the one we want to focus our attention on, not look at Iran, just because it's very comfortable for Israel. Well, Israel doesn't like Turkey either, so maybe we can concentrate on throwing, Turkey out of NATO and putting Erdogan in his place and put him to heel by saying you're not going to go into these other countries or do whatever. I mean, I don't want to go for another enemy, another war, but I think pulling out would be the best thing to do, and Colonel McGregor agrees.
Yeah, pulling out is the best thing to do, and
whoa, hello, PG.
But no, seriously. I mean, the way he says it, why do we have to be there? It's a very logical, basic, simple thing. The best thing to do is just get out, let them sort it out. We need to stop interfering and having these these quagmires everywhere else. Like, I mean, that is a logical sense. And it's also okay, I don't give a crap about what your political ideology is. America needs to stop being the imperialist boot that it is, and it needs to stop going everywhere and stomping on everybody else's shit and getting everybody in everybody else's business when we can't even fix our own goddamn domestic issues here. And so stay the hell away.
Now, this question was asked, and remember now, Donald Trump has got this guy in a position right now where he's the senior advisor, and I think that's why he's going to pull out. Pulling out is the best thing to do. But no, he's the senior advisor. Donald Trump was putting him in play.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this is just the last power move to say, hey, listen, if I'm out in 62 days or 60 days now, I'm going to get the troops home, and I'm going to let the public see the troops coming home as I'm hugging them and giving them high fives.
And
the Democrats are going to have to put them back in there. And let me tell you something, fam. Rhetoric means something. Rhetoric means a lot. Bernie Sanders didn't get anything passed, but he changed the whole political discussion. The whole dialogue was, okay, hey, we deserve Medicare for all. Hey, we need to do something with our student loan forgiveness. Hey, we need to do something with the Green New Deal. We didn't get any of that. But the voice is there. The rhetoric is there. When Donald Trump has this rhetoric and he puts people in play like
it's
this,
the same
you
rhetoric.
hear Trump people saying, we need to end these wars. I'm like, okay, because you used to defend the Republicans, but now you're changing your tune. I like it moving forward.
It's the same way his rhetoric meant a lot when he was defending certain groups and wasn't speaking out against them. It has these same impacts, whether the impacts are negative or positive. The rhetoric does have a certain degree to matter. This is why his rhetoric was also helpful in getting people to really fall back in line with the neoliberals, because they used that whole rhetoric. The mainstream media really upped his rhetoric against a lot of immigrants, people of color, etc., and used that against him because it does work and there is an emotion to it. But more than rhetoric, actions. If Donald Trump is able to bring in more non-interventionist people in his last days, and he's able to bring the troops home, then the ball is going to be in the Democrats' court, just like the ball is in Nancy Pelosi's court. And if they're going to politicize this and try to bring people and try back into war, that's going to be on them. And we're not going to shut up about it. In fact, we're going to talk about it nonstop, and you can't hide from that. We're going to see these people come home, and then we're going to see them send them right back. And that's how you're going to know that the Democratic Party is only Democratic in name.
Yeah, well, this is also a big move for Donald Trump on his plate. If he doesn't pull it off, he's not going to look good coming out, walking out, be like, all right, Donald, empty, broken promises.
Gotta do it.
But if he pulls it through, I mean, it's just a different whole thing. I mean, if he can do this, I will be so happy, fam. And I know a lot of anti-war people will be so happy. Let's bring these troops home. 20 years? I don't want to hear about solutions or the way to do it anymore. It's way past that time. 22 kids kill themselves every day in this country, pull a gun, hang themselves because of PTSD from going over and fighting in these very countries. Let's bring him home. Last part of this, they asked him then, is it possible for us to get this, to make this, put this ball into motion and make it actually happen, bringing troops home? His answer.
Is there any hope that happens?
Well, the president can do it. He has a wonderful opportunity now. He has a new point of departure. He can take the clean sheet and put it on the table, and he can sit with the Iranians and say, look, what are your interests? Tell us. We'll tell you what ours are. And he can draw that line that I mentioned. That can become the Trump line. And that's how great powers sort things out. But there's no support in this country to stay in Iraq and Syria. There is no support in the United States for a war over there. He knows that. So we have two groups of people that know something. The leadership in Tehran knows it doesn't want a war with us. We know we don't want a war with them. What a wonderful opportunity to sit down and sort it out.
The only impediment is permanent Washington.
There you go.
Yes.
As always.
Tucker Carlson, fam. Tucker Carlson's got to say the things that we need people to say. Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. And, you know, I can't stand Tucker Carlson when he talks about immigration and race. Absolutely not. But it's the fact that nobody else is talking about this. This is really sad. The fact that this guy on the right has to bring in people that are speaking against war. Why is MSNBC, CNN? Why? Because they're in the pockets of the defense manufacturers. That's why they're not doing it. And the only people that are talking about it are some independent media, even not that very many, focus on foreign policy. And this is, I mean, that's it. Like, why can't we sit down and have a conversation? Why does it always have to be, you're my enemy, you're my enemy, we hate you, we hate you, we hate you? Like, stop. We need to change our policy. And the only candidate was really talking about that in the primary, of course, was Tulsi Gabbard, talking about, you know, we need to sit down and change how how we operate when it comes to other countries, our enemies and our allies. Have a conversation, you know, stop these wasteful regime change wars. I mean, it's not that difficult to really say it. And I'm glad, like you talked about rhetoric, I'm glad that's becoming more of the norm, because a lot of people feel that way. They just never knew how to vocalize it.
Yeah. And if Donald Trump does get thrown out on his ass and Joe Biden becomes president, you're going to see a 4-year campaign of Donald Trump, and he's going to constantly say,
right,
they're war hawks. I pulled them out. They put them back in. That's going to change the rhetoric. If the people on the right start getting with that, guys, just think about that. Now, there's an argument from a lot of people who say Donald Trump is all talk, no action. And then there's a lot of people who were supporting Donald Trump who saying, well, he's got to fight the deep state. He's got to fight the intelligence community. It's really, really hard. These people are embedded within our Congress. You can see the way Nancy Pelosi and all these people, we're putting the troops in harm's way by bringing them home. Have you ever heard any type of freaking nonsense like that, fam? We're putting them in danger by bringing them home.
And I gotta say, like, I'm one of those people that thinks that Donald Trump is more of a barker than a biter. Like, he's not really. He's in my opinion, he's a narcissist. He's gonna do whatever he can to look good, to make the Democrats look bad. I don't care why he's doing it at this point. I want the troops to come home. I want us to stop our presence in the Middle East, to lower our presence in the Middle East at the very least. And if he's going to do that, and if he's going to go out with a bang and pardon Julian Assange and I'll do all these things, which I don't know if he will. And yes, the deep state is very powerful. And by deep state, I mean the CIA, the NSA, etc., the Pentagon. They're very powerful. But if you're going to say that you're going to do something, you should follow through with it, especially now, because Donald Trump could run again if he gets out. He could run again.
Yeah, he will.
And the party will grow, and people are going to be angry. And like I said before, when I was on Crosstalk, we're going to see a more competent right emerge out of all of this, with more anger and more bringing more people in, because the Democrats are just going to continue to expose themselves.
Johnny, anything else on this subject before I read a couple super chats, get on to the next one?
Yeah, shout out to Poikinen.
Steve Poikinen.
He joined up and he said, hello, my fellow right-wing grifters. But really quick, I just wanted to point out something that maybe a lot of people don't know this, but you can buy stock in defense companies, right?
Of course.
So here's Lockheed, here's Northrop Grumman, here's Raytheon. You can buy stock. So this is a problem. Why? So if people are able to buy stock in a defense company, that means that they're able to invest in war.
Yep.
So this needs to be eliminated. They need to be eliminated off the stock market.
Yep.
People shouldn't be able to have stock in even though these are private companies, they're publicly, public investments.
Right.
I can buy it right now if I wanted to. I can invest in Lockheed right now. But if you look at their this is a year graph, right? So this is their prices for the year. They're all the same. They're all pretty much the same. So it doesn't matter. They're all defense industries, and it all depends on our foreign policy. And these are three companies who have millions and millions of dollars and can influence and are influencing politicians, are lobbying politicians, and they're going to influence. They got money in the elections, right? So.
Oh yeah. Dick Medhurst said best. Congratulations to Raytheon and Northrop Grumman who won the election last night.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they continue as ever. And in fact, I think the stocks are going to go up if Biden becomes president.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
The whole industry is built upon buying more bombs. To buy more bombs, to sell more bombs, you have to drop more bombs. So the more you drop, then the more you can make, and you can constantly keep the cycle just going and going and going. And we have Mark Sloboda on the show to talk about Syria, what we were just talking about with the first video. Actually, at one point, the United States, the Pentagon, the Deep State, the CIA, all these facets were funding and supplying weapons to all parties involved fighting in Syria. And if that doesn't explain everything to you right there, I don't know what will. It's about money. It's about this industry. It's about what Eisenhower told us coming out. We have a military industrial complex, and it is running wild, and it is influenced, and what's the word? It's infected our Congress.
It's infested,
it's infected with it. And so many people on the left and the right, Lindsey Graham coming out and praising the fact that he got Donald Trump to pause from bringing the troops home.
That just tells you that there's the left wing and right wing paradigm is not really the biggest issue here.
It's not.